This week on Another Thing, the Academy Awards are thick with controversy this year. We'll talk about it with the experts. Dawn shows us some intimate pictures of John F. Kennedy and his family. And my commentary this week is on our country slowly drifting to another war. We're getting close to the Academy Awards, and this year they have been surrounded by controversy. First, when all white people were nominated for the top awards, and then with the release of American Sniper. Some saw it as patriotic, others saw it as glorifying the Iraq War. Ellen Kolodziej takes a closer look at the controversy in what is dividing Hollywood into political camps. Ellen.
So there is a lot of controversy surrounding the Academy Awards this year. For just the second time in 2 decades, every actor nominated is white. Al Sharpton says it's appalling and says Hollywood is like the Rocky Mountains. The higher you get, the whiter it gets. The Huffington Post says it's the whitest Oscars for a generation. Now, some critics say it's much ado about nothing, but one local film expert says it's as much about sexism as racism.
I think it's racist and appalling, and that people should be outraged, but not surprised. You have a woman director who whose film is considered it's nominated, but she's not. Something's wrong. But all the people picking the best director are white males. And we've seen this again and again. The women don't get the prizes, the women don't get the awards, and the women, as we know, don't get the pay either.
Brother Jerry Molyneux has taught film studies at LaSalle University for more than 40 years. He says Hollywood has faced these same complaints for generations.
Why aren't there more films about people of color? Why aren't there more films about women? Why aren't there more women writing films and directing films? Why aren't there more minorities directing films? Aren't we going back to the same place, whether it's race or sexism? It seems to me it goes back to who runs Hollywood.
So the nominations aren't the only controversy surrounding the Academy Awards. One of the pictures up for Best Film is American Sniper, and that's causing a lot of debate. Michael Moore says he was taught snipers were cowards, not heroes. Actor Seth Rogen apologized after his tweet seemingly compared the movie to Nazi propaganda. And the film's director, Clint Eastwood, says the film shows what war does to families and people who have to go back into civilian life. So no matter what happens when these Oscars are announced, you can bet people will be talking about them for years to come. Reporting for Another Thing, I'm Ellen Kolodziej.
All right, thank you, Ellen. And to talk more about the Academy Awards and the controversy surrounding the Academy Awards, Nancy SABINO, who is co-owner of the Showroom Cinema, and also Chris Jordan, entertainment reporter for the Asbury Park Press and APP.com. Mm-hmm. Let's start with, there seems to be 2 controversies for the most part. One that happened right after the nominations were announced, and I remember, I forget it was the Post or the Daily News in New York that showed all of the nominees, and they were all white faces. Mm-hmm. What is the cause of that, Nancy? I mean, you're laughing, but that's the root of the question, isn't it? I mean, is it just because the performances were better, or is there an inherent problem in the process?
Well, it all depends on who you're speaking to, obviously. The movies have to stand alone as, indications of their own issue. And Selma was, of course, a movie about a particular time and place, which was wonderfully portrayed as a period piece. So you're looking at a historical piece. Were the performances top-notch in some categories? Yes, they were. I mean, David Oyelowo was very good as the young Martin Luther King.
And that really is the shocker, right? That's the one where people are pointing to and saying he should have been nominated.
Well, that and the director. It was her first role, her first directorial debut in a major feature, Ava DuVernay, and she did an excellent job coming out of, relatively obscurity to get a movie this credible with these kinds of backers and these kind of performances. So having her as a director, I think, was even more important to have her acknowledged putting this kind of movie out there and having it, shoot to the top right away in terms of critical praise. So her and he as the lead, I think, were noticeably lacking in acknowledgement, I think, for the most part.
You agree with that? That they should have been nominated?
I didn't think the movie was as strong.
It's been attacked for its historical inaccuracies. That's what they keep saying has been the problem with the movie, is that it didn't follow history.
Right, and just I think it just lost its way in a few parts, and I don't think it was as strong as some of the other movies. Now, as far as the lack of African American representation in the movies, well, I think that's true. I mean, there's something ingrained in Hollywood that doesn't kind of put up a correct portrait of our everyday world. I don't think there's a strong African American representation in the movies. I don't think there's strong Hispanic American representation in the movies, and you can kind of go on and on. It's still, very vanilla.
Women of a certain age.
What kind of well, Meryl Streep would disagree. What kind of responsibility do they have? I mean, really, the responsibility of Hollywood is really to make money, right? And if they thought putting more African Americans in movies was going to make money, they would do it. If they thought putting more Hispanics in movies would make money, they're going to do it. Are we right to impose some type of social change on Hollywood?
I'm not sure that they really have the acumen to do it. I think there's a new frontier there, and I think I think a lot of producers and filmmakers are afraid to take that next step.
And yet we show independent movies at the showroom all the time, and the unbelievable movies that are coming out by independent directors, independent houses, is phenomenal. I mean, Birdman is obviously the top of the nomination category in terms of just a stupendous concept. And Boyhood is at the other end of the spectrum in terms of an intellectual concept over 12 years. That maybe is a very traditional approach for a movie, but the concept of doing it over 12 years and following one family was just inspired. It's never been done before. So you have a lot of creativity happening there. It's just the American movie machine out of Hollywood has a certain mindset that's slow moving. It's like turning around those battleships. It's really hard to make major changes. That's why the independent movies coming up, like Whiplash this year, was just so different because it came out of nowhere. Nobody expected it. It was a movie shot over 19 days. It's got maybe 4 principal actors in it, and it just bowled everybody over, and it's
You were just at Sundance, we should point out.
Yes, and Sundance is the place where you find defining movies constantly that just knock your socks off.
But these aren't the movies that define Hollywood. I mean, you always hear about, there's the awards movies, and then there's the movies that pay the bills.
That play in the multiplexes that cost, minimum, $80 million, $100 million of dollars.
And this year there was a crossover movie. This year there was a movie that was an awards movie, but also made a fortune, more than anybody thought it was going to make. And that kind of, I think that was the root of the controversy, is because it was so successful at the box office, people got upset. And we're talking about American Sniper. Mm-hmm. And the controversy about American Sniper started with Michael Moore and Seth Rogen basically accusing it of being too jingoistic, too rah-rah America, and not really showing both sides of war. Criticism fair?
No. Moore's and Rogen's statements, I think, is indicative of what we do in America is we talk at people. We don't talk to people. I think they made their statements even before they saw the movie. The movie is more nuanced. It's a better movie than just to say it's a blanket jingoistic movie or it's a movie about a crazy killer in Iraq. There's depth, there's subtlety, and if you look for it, you don't have to look too hard for it, but there's some anti-war messages in American Sniper too. It's about the trauma of war and what it does to the soldier and to the people waiting for those soldiers on the home front.
Let's go quickly through some of this. Best movie, who's going to win?
Oh boy, that's.
I just said quickly. Come on.
I say Birdman. You know,
Birdman?
I think Birdman was stupendous.
I think Boyhood, because it's over 12 years.
Just because of what it did. And
Yeah.
how about Best Actor?
Cumberbatch, I think, will win for the Imitation Game. You know, kind of historical drama, strong message there too.
Do you agree?
about-
Eddie Redmayne.
And how
Yeah.
about Best Actress?
Moore, Julianne Moore. The name, what's the movie?
Still Alice.
Still Alice.
About
yeah.
Alzheimer's.
Yeah, because there's no slam dunk, and it's a strong message movie, and
She seems to be the one
she's
that
ready. She's
everybody
ready.
says. I mean, when you hear every critic, that's the only category where they say, well, she's going to win.
Yeah, it's a tearjerker movie. It's hard to walk away from and not feel somehow, you know, compassionate for the character, either as a mother, as a daughter, as a wife. It's kind of hard to walk away and say, nah, I didn't like it.
All right. Well, I appreciate you both being here. We'll see how you did. Nancy Sabino, who is the co-owner of the Showroom Cinema, and also Chris Jordan, who is the entertainment reporter at the Asbury Park Press and APP.com. We're going to continue our conversation specifically about American Sniper. We're going to talk to a couple of veterans and a psychologist who deals with post-traumatic stress syndrome when we come right back.